I used to believe that forgiveness was the ultimate key to peace. Every self-help book, every podcast, every motivational speaker echoed the same mantra: forgive and let go. I followed that path blindly for most of my life, thinking it made me a better person, a more evolved soul. But sometimes forgiveness isn't a virtue. Sometimes it's a mistake that carves a deeper wound than the offense itself. My name is Caroline Brooks, and I'm 43 years old. I've lived long enough to learn that there are people who don't deserve your forgiveness. Not because you're incapable of giving it, but because what they took from you can never be returned. And letting them back in means risking everything all over again. If you're reading this, take my story to heart. These are the 5 people I will never forgive, and I urge you to think twice before forgiving anyone like them in your own life. It began with my first heartbreak. His name was Jason Hale, my high school sweetheart. Jason had that boy-next-door charm and a dimpled smile that made it easy to fall hard and fast. We dated for 3 years, planning our future like all young lovers do. I thought he was the one, until the day I found out the truth. He wasn't just cheating. He was cheating with my best friend, Tina, and had been doing so for over a year. The betrayal itself was painful, but what haunted me more was how Jason reacted when I confronted him. He didn't cry. He didn't beg. He laughed. He said, "You were too easy, Caroline. That's why it was boring." That moment rewired something inside me. I realized that people like Jason don't deserve forgiveness. Some people take your vulnerability as a challenge, something to manipulate and destroy. I spent years recovering from that emotional assault, learning to trust again. If I had forgiven Jason, he would have come back into my life only to do it again, because people like him don't change. They just get sneakier. The second person was my older cousin Roy. When I was 25, I moved to Denver to start over. Roy offered to help. He had a real estate company and said he'd let me stay in one of his rental units until I got settled. I was grateful. But kindness was just a mask he wore to get what he wanted. The moment I became financially stable and started to build my independence, Roy began using manipulation and emotional blackmail to keep me tied to him. When I refused to lend him money for his risky business idea, he turned ugly. He spread lies to my parents, told them I was ungrateful and delusional, even said I was mentally unstable. My mom stopped taking my calls. My dad began doubting my every decision. It took years before the truth came out, and only because Roy's business collapsed, exposing his scams. But by then the damage was done. I had lost time, trust, and family relationships. Forgiving Roy would have meant excusing his deliberate destruction of my life, and I couldn't do it. Some people are poison in disguise. Then there was Diane, my supervisor at the publishing firm where I worked for nearly a decade. Diane had the kind of charisma that won awards and respect, but behind closed doors, she was ruthless. I was one of her most loyal employees, always punctual, reliable, and driven. But when a senior management role opened up, she deliberately sabotaged my promotion to elevate her younger cousin, someone less qualified. She used my work, my research, and even my concepts and pitched them under her own name. I found out through a coworker who overheard her laughing about how easy it was to take credit for someone else's grind. When I confronted her, she warned me that I'd be labeled difficult if I made a scene. So I did the only thing I could. I quit. Hurt. I lost years of effort and professional momentum. Diane later got exposed during a plagiarism scandal, but by then I had already rebuilt my life elsewhere. Still, I never forgave her. She didn't just block my path. She stole from me, lied about it, and silenced me through fear. Some people don't deserve your forgiveness because their apologies only come when they're caught, not when they've changed. Number 4 on my list was someone I thought I could trust with everything. Eric, my ex-husband. We were married for 6 years. We built a home, talked about children, shared holiday dinners with our families. To the outside world we were perfect. But Eric had a secret life, one filled with online affairs and dating apps, carefully hidden behind a second phone I didn't know existed until a fluke message popped up on our smart TV. The betrayal itself wasn't just emotional, it was financial. Eric had drained our savings to impress women online. Jewelry, flights, hotels, and even a luxury watch I never saw. I tried to talk it through. He cried, apologized, begged me to stay. And for a moment I considered it. I thought forgiveness might heal us. But then I found out he had been lying during therapy, continuing his habits while pretending to change. That was the last straw. Filed for divorce. Forgiving Eric would have meant compromising every value I held dear. Truth, loyalty, self-worth. And for what? To live in denial. Some people don't just break your heart, they shatter your reality. Forgiving them is like handing them the hammer again. And the fifth person. Myself. This one's the hardest. There were times I betrayed my own gut feeling. Times I knew something was wrong but stayed anyway. I tolerated the disrespect. I minimized my pain. I allowed fear to silence my intuition. And for what? To keep the peace. To avoid conflict. To not be that woman who complains too much. There was one night in particular, after I found out about Eric's double life, I looked at myself in the mirror and whispered, "You knew." That was the truth. I had seen the signs. I had felt the distance. But I kept hoping, kept justifying. And that night I cried not just for the betrayal, but for how much of myself I had given away in the name of being understanding. So no, I don't forgive that version of me. I love her. I understand her. But I hold her accountable, because letting her go made room for the version of me I am today. A woman who listens to her instincts. A woman who sets boundaries like bricks and defends them like a fortress. You might be wondering why I'm sharing this now. It's not to preach or to pour salt into old wounds. It's to remind you, you are not required to forgive everyone. Some people teach you lessons not through healing but through walking away. Forgiveness can be freeing, yes. But it should never come at the cost of your peace, your dignity, or your future. Jason taught me that some people take love for granted. Roy showed me that family can be the first to betray you. Diane proved that professional respect means nothing to those who thirst for power. Eric reminded me that vows mean little to someone who's mastered deception. And my younger self. She made me realize that the hardest person to forgive is often the one you see in the mirror. But here's the thing I learned. I rose. I rebuilt. Today I run my own editing firm. I mentor young women navigating difficult workplaces. I speak on panels about emotional recovery and personal growth. I spend weekends with people who lift me up instead of tear me down. And most of all, I no longer feel guilty for protecting my heart. If you've got people in your life who've shattered your trust, manipulated your kindness, or used your love against you, please understand that forgiveness is not always the noble thing. Sometimes it's just the easiest way to let them do it again. Forgive when